podcast journalist and TV producer. Welcome to my interview series, Diversity and Inclusion in TV, Radio and Film, in which industry professionals talk to me about their experiences, their opinions and ideas on how decision makers in this business can make for positive and lasting differences to create workplaces that are free of prejudice. To stay up to date with all the interviews in my series, do subscribe to my YouTube channel. Now, it's time to introduce my guest. She's a Foley artist and she's working at Molinaire, one of the leading providers of post-production for films, feature films, documentaries, and other content. Welcome, Rebecca Heathcote. Hi, Rebecca.
Hi, Samina.
Hi.
Thank you for
No, it's great to have you. Thank you so much for agreeing to join me. So tell me, what's your experience been working in this business in terms of, you know, inclusion, fairness, diversity, representation?
It's been quite positive. I know there's quite a lot of talk about lack of diversity, which there is, but I've been quite supported throughout my career, particularly in audio. But there has been, you know, there's a noticeable lack of women in positions of authority, and it's been a kind of mixed.
Yeah. So why, you know, you said there's a noticeable lack of women in post-production. Why do you think that is?
I mean, there's quite a few reasons, I think, that kind of play into it. A lot of it comes from, I mean, this is a general point about working anyway, but the long hours that we do in the film industry mean that it's just not feasible for a lot of working mothers to take on, you know, the big responsibility that, you know, head of department jobs can be. And
so what you're saying is, I mean, you're right. I mean, one of the big laments of this business from people who work in it are the long hours, and you're not able to get a life as well as be that, you know, wholly committed to your work. So what you're saying that because of the women who choose to have families, that hinders them making decisions about taking on more senior roles, or purely because they have to balance that, get their work-life balance in order to look after their children, that they're overlooked for roles? What are you saying?
I think it's often a decision, you know, that women who might want to have families, you know, step away from the industry because they know how demanding it can be, balancing. It's a balancing act, our industry, because people are so passionate about what they do and put in such long hours into it. It can be really hard to balance a family life and a personal life with a successful career.
I think, you know, those who don't even have children, the long hours can result in burnout, and particularly if you work freelance, there's the tendency to accept all jobs because you want to remain relevant and within people's consciousness so that you get hired, you know, because working freelance, you can go from no work for long periods of time to a lot of work. So can you talk a bit about the burnout, you know, maybe the stress that people experience? Because everybody seems to think we work in a very glamorous industry, and it's not all glamorous.
No, it's not. I mean, it is sometimes, but there is a huge problem with burnout and mental health issues in our industry. The Film and TV charity did a study into, you know, levels of mental health problems and in our industry, and the numbers were huge. It was like 85% or something. So
yeah, that's quite a struggle. That's a lot. That's quite a large percentage.
Yeah, it is, and a lot of people leave the industry and drop out because it's just not feasible for everybody to balance having a life with a career.
And what do you think the decision makers, the industry can do to facilitate ensuring that people do get more of a balance and still can remain committed to their work? What kind of ways forward do you think there are?
It's a hard one, but we need people in, senior people in positions of authority to understand that, people are not dispensable, and it's really important to have a team of people who are well balanced and healthy, and that, it adds so much to a production. I mean, if you have a whole crew of people who just go to work and come home and sleep and working constantly without any other kind of stimulus, you're not going to have as creative a team around you, and you're not going to have the same creative output as if you have a team of well-rounded individuals who have, active lives outside of work, who can bring those experiences to their jobs.
Yeah, and that doesn't make for a happy existence either. Just seeing work and then seeing your bed, and that's it between the two.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we all love our jobs in this industry, and often that's the lure of it. We've got such a great job, so we're happy to do, work every hour God sends. But we need to be aware as an industry that people often push themselves too far and need to take care of themselves.
There's some places that are doing job shares. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a good idea. I think it can definitely work. Certain roles it can definitely work for. I think it's starting to work more in production. I've not actually experienced it firsthand, but I think it's a good idea. It's a way of, people balancing maintaining a career with having some hours in the day, to look after yourself and your family and things like that.
So you are from outside of London. Where are you from exactly?
Yes, so I'm from Lancashire originally, and then I studied in Sunderland in the northeast.
So how's your experience been from somebody who's getting into the industry, who's outside London? Because London is generally considered the hub of everything around media, even though in recent years some of the big channels, broadcasters have moved some of their businesses outside of London. So what was your experience?
Yeah, well, so when I was first getting into the industry, I was up in the northeast around Newcastle and Sunderland, and luckily they have a great little, community and industry up there. And there's a lot of, recurring TV shows that shoot up there, and feature films that hire local. So it's a great start. There's a lot of these kind of hubs of filmmaking. So the northeast, Wales particularly has a great kind of hub, and Manchester with Media City. So I've worked, started in the northeast in Newcastle.
Were there any challenges is what I'm trying to understand, because a lot of people complain that it seems to be that London is the focus on everything. I mean, were there any challenges, or do you think there are challenges from those who are outside of the capital?
Yeah, definitely. Especially in post-production, where a lot of post-production houses are based in London. There are ones outside, but you're often expected to be able to take a job. More in production, you're expected to take a job and move to London and be able to support yourself, but that's not always the case, because living costs in London is so much higher. And if you're, from the north, you may not have any friends or family. I know I didn't in London that you can stay with, or there is definitely a London-centric focus, but I think we're moving further away from that, I think.
Like I said, some of the larger media organizations have moved their business out to accommodate that. So what about, those, say, from more challenged socioeconomic backgrounds? Again, as you said, living in London is prohibitive. It is very expensive living in London. So what opportunities are available for them if they want to break into this business?
It is hard because, trying to break into the industry when a lot of places expect kind of work experience and free work to gain the experience to get a paid job is really hard when you haven't got, the support system behind you, or if you don't come from a family that can financially support you through getting that work. It can be a challenge. There are ways of doing it. At Molyneux, we've joined the government's Kickstarter scheme. So we've managed to, through the scheme, we've managed to employ 30 young people that were on universal credit to the team.
So what, do they come in as apprentices? How does that work exactly?
Yes, so they come in, so it's a part-time contract, I think it's 3 days a week. They come in and there's a variety of roles that we've created for these young people. One of them is Foley assistant, and they're going to come in and assist us and learn on the job. And that's, I'm really proud that we've done that, because it has taken people that were on universal credit, people that may not necessarily have, family contacts in the industry and go the traditional way in, like through university or through networking, and giving them a chance to get into the industry and see it and gain that experience while being paid.
Okay, they get paid as well. That's great. That's really great. So, yeah. You mentioned something very interesting earlier on about, excuse me, when trying to break into this business, you have to invariably, not everybody, but most people have to do some free jobs to get noticed in order to get a paid job. I mean, that's one of the bugbears of our business. There's many film and TV companies who are currently breaking the law with regard to not paying young people. They're obliged to pay them the national minimum wage under the guise of, oh, we're taking you on as a runner or work experience, but using that as a claim that it's good for your CV. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've done my fair share of that in the early years. It was kind of, oh, come on as a runner for work experience. And then you end up doing the whole 7-week shoot and don't get paid. And, it is really hard. And,
but how do you think that can be challenged? Because, as I was saying, it's against the law to do that. So if not all companies, let me just make that very clear, not all companies, a lot of companies have turned their businesses around where they are paying these young people, they take on as runners or work experience. But what's the way forward on this for those who are not? Because if you're new to the business, you're not going to open your mouth and go challenge that, are you? Or if you do, you're very brave.
Yeah. No, I think as an industry, we need to be aware and keep an eye out for productions that are kind of flouting the rules and expecting this free labour, because expecting people to work for free only gives you a very limited pool of people that can do the work, because not everybody has the means to be able to give up days, weeks without, getting an income.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, everybody has to keep a roof over their head and food on their table. And if you don't get paid, then that's just impossible to do. What's interesting about this whole scenario is I just want to clarify that those who are doing work experience through a university or a course, then the organizations are not obliged to pay them the minimum wage. However, if they are taking on as work experience or as a runner or a particular role, and they're actually doing the job as opposed to just shadowing, i.e. just watching somebody else do it, then they are obliged to pay them. So there's a big difference between shadowing and actually doing the job.
Yes, there is. Yeah. If, you know, coming in and watching somebody like learning Foley, you know, the best way is to watch someone and learn from them. But if you're then expected to do it and given responsibilities, then that should absolutely be paid for. You should be paid for your time.
Mm. So as a woman from up north, like my good self, so your experiences have been, for the most part, positive, except for having to do a lot of free work at the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, I've been lucky to be surrounded by a lot of great women who are kind of breaking boundaries in the industry. My first kind of foray into sound was with a female sound designer who came on set, and then joining the team at Pinewood. It's a very female heavy. I think at one point we had a 50-50 gender split, and now moving over to Molyneux, we're a kind of majority female recording team. So luckily I've been surrounded by a lot of very supportive women, but that isn't the case everywhere.
And what are your thoughts about women, those from more diverse backgrounds, actually who are in the business, stepping up and offering themselves, whether it's as mentors or as a support system for those who are new to the business? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's absolutely the best thing, you know, if you get out there and show that, you know, a woman from a diverse background or a non-traditional background can make it in these roles. And that, I mean, that encourages people anyway, but offering, you know, mentorships and help with other people getting a head start is absolutely a great thing to be doing.
Yeah, and thank you so much for bringing up what Molyneux are doing with the apprentice scheme. I think that's really encouraging, and that just brings to light what young people could go down that route as well, to get hands-on industry expert. So that's really great that you shared that.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Companies just need to be on the lookout for stuff like this. Like, you know, the government is paying the wages of those 30 staff members. So, you know, for a company, it's a no-brainer. We get 30 great young staff members whose wages are paid for by the government, and it's only positive that all these people are getting the opportunity to work in the film.
Yeah, and training the next generation of creatives for, in your case, post-production sound.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Well, listen, Rebecca, thank you so much for sharing, you know, your experience and what's going on at Molyneux. It's been really insightful. Thank you so much for your time today.
No worries, thank you.
I'm really interested to hear from all of you, whether you're at entry level or whether you're a long-standing industry professional. What are your experiences around diversity and inclusion? I'll be really interested to hear your stories. So do leave me a message in the comments section. Also, please do feel free to continue this conversation. If there's anything you'd like to post, your opinions, your thoughts on anything Rebecca and I have discussed today, I'd be very interested to hear that. Or feel free to just generally, you know, post any comments about what your thoughts are about the industry in general in terms of representation of those from underrepresented communities. Now, if you'd like to stay up to date with all the interviews in my series, then do subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's been great having your company. Thank you so much for being a part of the conversation, and I'll see you next time.